recording.
Yeah.
Who would like to start reading? Or should I?
I can read.
Okay. Take it from the top, Rosalie.
During their evening supper, Baba again emphasized that no one in the manzil should have any connection with Ghani and to ignore him. He even went as far as to say that they were to treat him as if he were part of the furniture. For some days, Baba stopped talking with or seeing Ghani altogether, and then sent Gustaji to ask him, "Now do you feel sorry in any way?" Ghani reiterated, "I do not feel anything." Baba became all the more displeased, berating him. "If I am anything, I will make you tell the truth." He then added to what was already written on the board, "If Ghani has any shame left in him, he should immediately leave the manzil." Merwan.
May I say something, please? If you will scroll up, please, can you scroll up? It says 11 October. We're not far away from 11 October now. That's all. Yeah.
During this period, some families of the married Mandali were being financially supported by Baba. Later, that same night of 11th October, Baba asked those Mandali members concerned whether they had received money, order, arranged acknowledgements, but money, let's see, whether they had received money, order, acknowledgements from their families. Some replied to the oh no, yeah. I need my glasses. Where am I? The acknowledgement receipts had been kept with Ghani, who went to his room and upon returning handed one receipt to Ahmed Khan Gavai and one to Kandiram. Seeing this exchange, Baba became so perturbed with Ahmed and Kandiram for having anything to do with Ghani that he demanded that the three men leave the manzil immediately.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
Kunduram and Ahmed were frightened and began perspiring while Ghani was resigned. After a while, Baba called them back and forgave them, slowly reverting once more to his good-humored self. Then he quietly addressed Ghani. "I order you to return to Pune and stay there. I am not sending you away permanently. You can keep your baggage in your room. You also can come here one day a month and stay with me. Your connection with me will remain intact and be secure. I will definitely do for you what I have to do." Ghani pleaded, "I am bound to follow your order, but I don't relish the prospect of remaining in Pune and spending only one day a month with you. I don't know how I shall pass my time there." Baba then inquired, "Does this mean that you felt something with this last order?" Ghani admitted he did. And Baba then told him to write on the notice board, "By Ghani's acknowledging that he is distressed from the beginning, he is forgiven. Merwan." The tense atmosphere in the manzil dissipated, and all heaved a sigh of relief. Thumps and bumps was played. When it was over, Baba told Ghani to write on the notice board, "I beg you all not to express your bad intentions by your mean actions and words amongst yourselves." Merwan. Age reflected. It is virtually impossible to understand the Avatar's love and mercy for those whom he loved and brought close to him. Baba had a dagger unsheathed, ready to slit their egos. To tread the spiritual path is like walking on the edge of a sword. There, the intellect does not count. Regarding his orders, there is no need to reason or analyze. The Avatar always does that which is of the utmost benefit to all concerned. His only weakness is that he can never harm anyone. The master had to do his work, and his apparent expression of extreme cruelty was, in fact, an expression of his extreme mercy. By rending the walls of his disciples' obstinate egos, he was showering his blessings, pounding the rock of the ego into dust, or cutting the thick veil of ignorance results in suffering. His work is the annihilation of the ego mind, and that operation leaves scars. But the suffering eventually leads to infinite bliss. At 4:30 in the morning on Juni Day, October 12th, before the Mandali began their usual prayers of repeating God's name, Baba gave the following discourse. There are two states, internal and external, divided or separated by a mental curtain or veil. To purify the internal state is not in the hands of any mortal being. It is impossible without the help of a Sadguru. Therefore, unless a person comes across a perfect Salik or Sadguru, he should try his best to keep his external body clean. This is what every religion teaches. By perfectly carrying out the tenets of one's religion, one has a chance of coming into contact with the Salik or perfect master. By paying attention to external cleanliness, the internal, to some degree, also gets purified. Thus, to realize God, one of either two ways should be adopted. There is no in between, since the work of cleaning the internal is only in the hands of a perfect master. In his absence, the second best method is to look after the external as laid down by the teachings of one's religion.
All right, Grizzly, thank you. Michal, would you like to go on?
Can I read, Marvin?
Oh, sure. Go ahead, Meher.
Yeah, because it's already 10:30 here. Okay. Every religion prescribes, dictates, relating only to external in reading, sitting, standing, keeping the body clean with the baths and ablutions, and in the same way observing cleanliness about one's food and clothes, etc. With the eyes, you are told to look at the good and religious objects, which the tongue and the lips to utter prayers, with the ears to hear divine reactions, and so on. Thus, the rules and principles underlying and religions are only external, and hence, from the beginning, the avatars have enjoined their followers to carry them out. The middle path adopted by yogis and others who studiously perform practice in almost always in complete failure because they depend upon the help of both the internal and the external of realizing the goal in the practice of meditation. To active the mind by deep inhalation and exhalation, they depend upon the internal. By sitting, by reading and fasting, they make use of external, and for all reasons, they generally fail. Therefore, until your fortune brings you into Sadhguru's orbit, it is best to follow and adhere to the doctrines of your own religion as closely as you can. Once the internal is cleansed by the grace of a perfect master, then the person realizes God, after which the external is no longer cared and for is completely neglected. This is the reason why saints are usually found outwardly dirty, when their internal is rendered pure. What do the saints care about the external? The external will vanish one day anyway. When Ghani was preparing Baba's bath around 2 o'clock that afternoon, the master ordered chocolates from the market and distributed them among the mandali. He asked everyone if they liked the taste, and except for Arjun, all said they were delicious. Some later, Baba inquired, "Is the taste which you have enjoyed just a few moments ago still present?" The men replied it. Baba then explained, "The mind is pleased when a good thing is given to it, but it is soon returns its original state. The same mind revolves when some bitter medicine like castor oil is forced upon it, but again, after a short while, it reverts to its normal state. This proves that both the pleasures and pains of the world are ephemeral and short-lived. A few moments ago, you ate the chocolates with a sense of enjoyment, but immediately after the same enjoyment and delicious taste becomes a thing of the past because the flavor did not linger in your mouth." Such is a case with earthly pleasures and pains. Sexual intercourse is the highest type of sensual pleasure in the world. But how long does it last? Only a few minutes. If this is the highest of the worldly pleasures of compared with the real happiness of eternal divine bliss, it is a merry shadow of a drop from the infinity ocean of eternal bliss. When once realized, the bliss is felt and enjoyed every second forever. From this comparison, you can imagine the hollowness of the world and its pleasure. In the evening, Baba sang in Persian a couplet from the ghazal of Hafiz, which he explained to the men. He was splendid mood, and it being Thursday, the day of the Guru, the Aarti of Upasni Maharaj was sung. Afterwards, for the first time in many months, the men were allowed to bow down to Baba's feet and take his darshan. On 13th October at 10:30 in the morning, Baba sent for Adi and Ghani, who were looking morose. He told them he mentally free and happy. He then explained what he meant as the cause of the effect, the cause may be big and important or small and insignificant, but the result will definitely be according to it. The vows of the world are imaginary and are the self-created result of our own ignorance, having no cause. They are therefore unjustifiable. If there is no reason or cause, then it naturally follows that the result is unreal, unsubstantial,
Insubstantial.
and meaningless. So why worry about the happiness or misery of this world, which has no cause behind it except for imagination? Just go on observing things as a passive spectator, and they go on around you, keeping the mind free and happy, as Hafiz says. Both the happiness and sorrows of the world will pass away. So it is better to remain peaceful throughout. At 4:45 on the morning of Saturday, 14th October 1922, when the men had gathered in the dining room to offer prayers, the master inquired if anyone had dreamt anything last night. Kani said, I dreamt that a lane on the main road on the Bhendi Bazaar, a Bombay locality, I was sitting attired in a dirty orchard color robe. Some friends and relatives of mine were passing and seeing me looking like a sadhu. They said, there is a famous doctor of Nal Bazaar.
All right, thank you, Meher.
Welcome.
I will pick it up here. Then Abdur Rahman said, I dreamt that Kak Saheb was talking to you, Baba. At this, the master said, if his dream is true, then Kak Saheb will return from Delhi today. After breakfast, Baba ordered cricket to be played, saying, let Ramju and Abdullah Jafar be captains and select their respective teams. Neither knew the first thing about cricket, and Ghani began teasing them. Abdullah and Kak would make a beautiful pair as captains with their spectacles sliding down their noses. This made Baba laugh, and he remarked, Kak will surely return today. After a game of cricket was finished, Kak and Asar unexpectedly arrived at the manzil. Kak Saheb and Asar Saheb had been staying in Delhi for the past 10 days to persuade the Mohammedan Sufi scholar Hassan Nizami to write an introduction to Upasni Maharaj's Urdu biography, which was to be titled Gariban Ka Asara, Refuge for the Meek. However, there had been no news from them for some days. Hassan Nizami had agreed to write the introduction, and they had informed him of Baba's prediction of the coming manifestation of the Messiah, saying that Meher Baba had indicated the first spark would be in India, especially Karachi. And we have a footnote here. It says 5 months later, in March of 1923, Nizami came to Manzil Amin to meet Baba, but Baba was not meeting outsiders then and did not see him. After the evening meals, Baba gathered the Mandali and discussed the topic of his going to Sikori. My sufferings are now becoming unbearable, and by going to Sikori, Maharaj will take a little of the load off my shoulders. But because of this, Maharaj will have to suffer much internally. He may even beat me, abuse me, and disgrace me in the presence of all at the time of Diwali, the Hindu festival of lights. I have been telling you for months that advanced saints and Mahatmas will disgrace me and beat me, because at this moment the spiritual world is against me. So it is possible Maharaj may take the matter into his own hands by insulting and beating me. If I don't go, however, and continue staying here, I shall have to suffer terribly. Except for Munshiji and Vajasdar, all the men agreed that Baba should go to Sikori, and he decided to leave that night. Baba then told Ghani to bring a particular passage from Swami Vivekananda's writings, which Gani read. The only true teacher is he who can convert himself, as it were, into 1,000 persons at a moment's notice. The only true teacher is he who can immediately come down to the level of the student, transfer his soul to the student's soul, see through the student's eyes, hear through his ears, and understand through his mind. Only such a teacher can really teach, and none else. All these negative, breaking down, destructive teachers that are in the world can never do any good. Baba elaborated upon Vivekananda's words. Suppose a teacher holding a Master of Arts degree teaches children the alphabet. Necessarily, he has to come down to the level of his students and read and write and repeat the ABCs along with them. Only then will he be able to teach and impart his knowledge to them and gradually bring them up to his own level. If he does not bring himself down from the great heights he has attained, his labors on the students would be wasted. Similarly, a perfect master brings himself down to the level of ordinary mankind and in the course of time imparts his knowledge to his fellow man. Take the case of the Prophet Muhammad himself. When his enemies proved unrelenting and his life was in danger, he actually fled from Mecca and took refuge in Medina. The greatest spiritual master of the time behaved like an ordinary man when confronted with such a crisis. This is the reason why it is only the Sadguru who can make others like himself. It is impossible for Madzubs and musts to do this, as they are so drowned in their divine bliss that they are even unconscious of their bodies. When their state is like this, oblivious to the universe, how can they realize others? Referring to his condition in Bombay, as opposed to what it had been in Pune, Baba said, whatever I have told you was to happen in Pune is happening in Bombay. Months ago, I had said I would have to bear great suffering in Pune, so much that my eyes will sink in their sockets. This has taken place here in Bombay. I had told you I would be violently beaten. So it is possible it may soon occur here. My every word will come true. But I alone know how and when and where. You will not be able to understand them. To talk about and understand such subjects requires special ears and a different tongue. Baba continued speaking about his internal suffering. My suffering is twofold, because I have received my charge from two sides, a little from Babajan and much from Upasni Maharaj. Maharaj knows this and therefore constantly sends word with Rustam or Sadashiv, asking me to come to Sakori so that he may ease my burdens and sufferings. Okay, somebody else want to take over here? Go ahead,
Okay,
Eugene.
I can read it.
No,
There's
no,
some-
I can read. I
No,
can
we
read.
got Eugene and Michal ready to go.
Okay,
Okay, so where do I read from?
Right from the top, but by doing.
But by so doing, it was Rosalie who asked to be reading now, right?
Right.
Yeah, okay. But by so doing, the old man, Maharaj, will have to suffer greatly internally. But if I don't go, my sufferings, which have already gone beyond endurance, will continue increasing. Thus I am caught between two fires. After this, Baba asked Ghani to join Kak Saheb and Azar Saheb to inform Kak Saheb and Azar Saheb about the spiritual regime which all the Mandali had been following since the 1st of October. Ghani accordingly explained in great detail about the early morning rising, bathing, repetition, and meditation orders. Azar openly objected to the pre-dawn rising and fixed hour for praying, asking why it was necessary. When Baba was told about Azar's objection, he was upset. He rebuked Kak and Azar for questioning his orders and instructed all the Muslim members of the Mandali to awaken whenever they liked and to do as they please. After quieting down, the master directed these critical remarks towards Kak and Asar. Who is there among you who knows more about Shariat, outward religious ceremonies and rituals, than myself? You won't find a truer Muslim than myself. I am what I externally am, but who among you knows what I am internally? Prayers and forms of worship are only meant for God. But you are so immersed in the formality of the thing and all its details, you forget God and worship the prayers. In this tense atmosphere, Kak lost his temper and began blaming Azar. Up until then, Azar had been quiet, but after being upbraided, he loudly reproached Kak. An argument ensued and became so heated that, forgetting the subject of the new orders, they both began shouting at each other. Azar was so exasperated, he refused to share a room any longer with Kak and requested that Baba separate them. The master, however, said they should both be on amicable terms, or else they would have to leave the manzil. Within a short time, both men calmed down. After final instructions, Baba left for Sakori with Sadashiv Patel at 10 p.m. on 14th October 1922. Before going, he made Kak and Azar promise not to argue further, to forgive each other, and to continue working together on Upasni Maharaj's biography. The order to awaken in the early hours of the morning for prayers was reinstated for the Muslim Mandali. It seemed that in order to wipe out some inner conflict between Kak and Azar, the question of prayer had arisen. It proved an effective medium for the master to remove any resentment or misunderstanding brewing between these two strong personalities. Baba and Sadashiv arrived in Sakori. It's very interesting how Baba does it. He makes them fight in order to get it all up on the surface. Baba and Sadashiv arrived in Sakori early in the morning of 15 October. On the same day, Daulat May had also arrived with her two daughters, Piroja and Mera. While Maharaj's niece, Ganji, was giving them a tour. Oh, this is where she met him for the first time. They heard footsteps descending a nearby staircase. Ganji told Mera and Piroja, Mewanji, Maharaj's closest disciple is coming. Baba swiftly descended the stairs and walked past them, giving Mera, who was very shy, her first opportunity of seeing him. Although no words were spoken, it was a great moment. Age was deeply moved by its significance. Mera's heart was struck by Baba's countenance. Did you say countenance? Is it right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. And sang out, at last, I've seen the Lord at last. Mera's mother, Dalatnei, had met the master before when she had been to Sakori, but she had not explained to her daughters about Upasni Maharaj or Meher Baba. Later, in Maharaj's thatched hut, Mera and her mother and sister were seated on the floor when Baba entered. With folded hands, he stood before Maharaj, who beckoned him to leave and wait outside under a nearby mango tree. He immediately bowed to Maharaj and left, circling the hut 3 times, performing what is known to Hindus as parikrama, reverently honoring the Guru's abode. Seeing Baba's love for his master touched Mera's heart. The divine song had called her awakening heart to Sakori, and he himself had traveled here only to meet her. Mera's tears were now crying, "Oh song, how humble you are, how beautiful you are." And the song replied, "I am yours forever, and you are mine. Because I am humble, my melody will melt the hardest stone." Mera spontaneously longed to be with Baba, and the voice of age whispered, "Pure one, soon you will join your beloved Lord. and the lute of your life will play his sweet song every day. Maharaj emerged from his hut and sat with Baba in the mango grove. Together they arranged plans for Baba's Mandali to come to Sakori for 2 days during the upcoming Diwali festival of lights. After staying in Sakori for 18 hours, Baba and Sadashiv left for Ahmednagar. He bid farewell to all those at Sakori and he climbed into a waiting Tonga. The devotees of Upasni Maharaj rushed forward to touch his feet, but he waved them away and swiftly rode off in the Tonga.
Okay, thank you. Honey Bunny, why don't you pick it up from here?
Contrary to what Baba had predicted in Bombay, instead of speaking against him, Maharaj had instructed all those present in Sakori to touch Baba's feet, declaring that he was a great master. While at Sakori, devotees surrounded Baba wherever he went, affording him little time to talk privately with Maharaj. Maharaj had given ghee to Sadashiv to massage Baba's body so that he would have a relaxing rest during the afternoon. This trip to Sakori was especially significant because it afforded Baba the opportunity of meeting Mehera, who was later chosen to become his closest female disciple. Selecting her was the real reason for his trip.
Wow.
Also, this sacred occasion was the last time Meher Baba was to set foot in Sakori during Upasni Maharaj's lifetime.
Wow.
He would not see Maharaj again until October 1941, 19 years later.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Baba arrived in Ahmednagar late at night and stayed at Gulmai and Khan Saheb's house, Sarosh Manzil. The next day, Baba visited Khan Saheb's brother-in-law, Kaikushru Ardashir Irani, Sarosh's father, known as Elder Kaikushru, at his home near the camp area of the town. Although Elder Kaikushru had been opposed to Upasni Maharaj and Baba and did not attend the Sarosh Manzil house opening, on this occasion he welcomed the master warmly. Baba was in a good mood and recited couplets from the Shahnameh in Persian to him, which he enjoyed. Sarosh's sister Mota was betrothed to Keki Irani during this occasion. Gulmai had been permitted to visit Manzil Ibim several times prior to the following incident. Once, after Baba had returned from Ajmer, she had gone to Bombay in response to a telegram informing her that her father was seriously ill. Gulmai arrived in Bombay at 9 in the evening, consulted with Baba at the Manzil, and then went to Parel, where her father lived. He passed away the next morning. While the funeral prayers and rites were being performed, she received a message from Baba to come to him. She went as soon as the body had been taken to the Tower of Silence for the dead, and after seeing Baba, returned home to Ahmednagar.
Footnote says Gulmai's son Adi was living with Baba at the Manzil Imam at the time, but Adi was not permitted to attend his grandfather's funeral.
Sometime later, her daughter Dolly's Navjot, that's the Zoroastrian thread ceremony, was performed in Parel. In the evening, Baba and the Mandali were invited to celebrate the occasion. Gulme's brother, Dr. Meenachar Shah Irani, had been ill and was to have an operation soon and wished to consult Baba about it. Baba informed him that there was no need to be concerned and that he would recover. Despite the master's kindness, Meenachar Shah, sorry.
Maybe Minnow Shershaw.
Minnow Shershaw had no faith in Baba and spoke against him to his sister and others. Because of her faith in Meher Baba as a master, Gulme also continued to be harassed at home by her in-laws, also who did not believe in his divine attainment. When the situation became intolerable, Gulme would weep while secluding herself in a special prayer room where Upasni Maharaj had stayed while visiting her. One day, her in-laws ridiculed her terribly. On that very same day at Manzil-e-Neem, Baba told Adi and Gustaji that he was very angry with Adi's father and that Gulme would be coming to see him within 8 days. And she did arrive exactly on the 8th day. On one occasion, while Gulme was present, Baba turned to Gustaji and said, "As I see all things, my heart sinks." Gulme requested a clarification, but Baba refused to explain himself. He then asked her what she had been doing on a certain day in the recent past. She remembered that it was the day when she had wept while looking at his photograph. She tried to evade a reply. He gazed at her and asked, "Were you looking at my photograph?" She nodded affirmatively. And then he asked, "How many tears did you shed on my behalf?" She evaded his eyes and kept her head bowed. Her son, Adi, interjected. That was the same day when Baba told us that he was very upset with father. Baba smiled at her, softly saying, "I see you in Adi's eyes. He is the frame, and you are the image inside." The following day was Eid, a holy day in honor of Prophet Muhammad, and a celebration was held. Munshiji brought a white kafni with lace for Baba to wear. The master looked magnificent in it. Seeing Gustaji's torn shirt, Baba told Gulmai to repair it. But Gustaji would not let her. Baba later told her, "Never mind what he says. If you sew for Gustaji, it is tantamount to doing service for me." After a few moments of silence, Baba asked Gulmai, "Do you know what I did just now?" She said, "No." Baba said, "No one knows what I am doing even at this moment." Gulmai answered, "Nothing of what you are doing is apparent to me. It is my work which no one can understand," he replied. On one occasion, while placing his hand on a light switch, he told Gulmai, "Look, the bulb is connected by a wire to the switch."
All right, thank you, Eugene. Mahu, you
Baba.
want to pick it up from here?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, from where I should read?
No, I just press.
Okay. I just press the button and there is light. Similarly, when the perfect master presses the button, the spiritual mother will have illumination. Until then, remember, patience is required. At another time, he used the example of a fetus fetus, which has to live inside the mother's womb. Yeah, fetus, that's true. As if in captivity for 9 months. If the child is not given the full cycle of time, he is born prematurely and is often unhealthy. He then added, I am also bound. I want to be free, and I also want to make you free. Baba left Ahmednagar by train on the night of 16 October and returned to the manzil at 8:30 the next morning. After reading through the correspondence received during his absence, he wrote on the notice board, if during the past 2 days anyone has broken any order of mine, small or large, either knowingly or by mistake, he should admit it to me by 8 o'clock tonight. MEHER, 17 October of 1922. Everyone acknowledged some fault to the master. Although no one was allowed to read anything unless directed, Ghani admitted he had read a ghazal of Asar Sahib's published in the Urdu newspaper Bashra. For this infringement of the order, Ghani was sent out to buy a book written by Swami Vivekananda. Gustaji informed Baba that in his absence, there had been a heated argument between Rostam and Naval Talati. Naval was certain that if a mega rag rain tune was properly sung, rain would fall. Rostam, however, was firm in his opinion that without the spiritual powers, it was not possible to bring rain. Baba commented, what Naval says is true. By singing the mega rag, rain is possible and no spiritual power is necessary. It is an acknowledged fact that by rain, clouds colliding, rain falls. Sound also travels in waves, and scientists have proven that it takes time for them to travel. The traveling of sound waves can be easily understood if you look at a person washing clothes at a distance. When he strikes the clothes on the stone, the sound does not immediately reach you. He strikes the clothes, but you hear it after a few seconds. Similarly, in singing the mega rag, when the sound has the required pitch and vibrations, it creates waves, causing a disturbance in the clouds, which results in rain. This is a natural phenomenon. What is there to disbelieve in it? What happened? Yeah. Compared with this, the discovery of the radio and the telegraphic wireless is harder to believe. Without any apparent connecting link, message or sound is made to travel great distances between 2 points. Now, what is the voice? Where does it originate? When one hears sound coming out of his mouth, it must be existing somewhere. In truth, sound pervades the universe. God is sound, light, everything. There is a point from where sound issues forth, and from the creation point or Om point, evolution starts. Sound has been given a door or mouth to manifest from. When a sound comes out of the mouth, it is lost in the universal sound, which is everywhere. So what wonder is there if the sound produced by singing the megaton reaches the clouds 2 miles above the earth and produces rain? When it is a recognized fact that sound waves are sent through telegraphy thousands of miles away, there is nothing spiritual or supernatural in producing rain through sound waves. It is for this reason, because sound travels and creates various vibrations, that a person should read the holy books, whether he understands their meaning or not. The words in the Zoroastrians' Zend Avesta, or in the Hindus' Gita, or in the Muslims' Quran, and in other scriptures are so arranged that when they are pronounced, the sound created comes very nearly in unison with the universal voice and is a great help in influencing a person spiritually. Okay, let me read this. Oh, well, that's okay. While Ghani was preparing the master's afternoon bath, Baba asked Ramju, "Does God have a mother?" Ramju thought for a moment and replied that he did not know. Irritated, Baba said, "Don't you even know the story in the Quran?" To settle the matter, Hakan and Asar Sahib were called to Baba's room. Asar observed, "What Ramju said is correct. Who can say with certainty whether God has parents or not?" Baba taunted Asar, "If you don't know yourself and are not certain about it, then why do you ridicule the Christians who believe in the Son of God? Whatever it may be, you should not so easily renounce your religion. Outwardly, you must adhere to it." In view of the master's argument, Asar had to eventually accept this explanation, while Khak observed the incident peering through his spectacles. Baba asked Ghani, "Does God have any children?" Ghani replied in the affirmative, while the other emphatically denied it.
All right,
Baba,
thanks, Mona. Let's have another. Rita,
Sure.
Rainey, your turn.
Baba asked Ghani to explain himself. According to you, when God has a father, what error is there in supposing he has children too? Baba retorted, having a father does not necessarily mean one must have children, but it is true that God has innumerable children. The multifarious powers that emanate from him can be said to be God's children. The Hindus call God Deva, and his 33 crore, 330 million powers are called Devtas. When Baba returned from his bath, he found Asai Sahib asleep. He immediately reproached him for sleeping during the day. After calming down, Baba explained to him about the third eye. In addition to our two outward eyes, there is a third eye, eternally, which sees through the two outward eyes and is situated between the eyebrow. The yogis know about it. The real yogi, in his advanced state, sees God, or Brahman, the God of the universe, through this third eye contained in his mind within the skull.
Excuse me, Rainey, could you talk a little louder or maybe
Yeah,
move a
sorry,
little
I'll have to-
closer to the mic?
Yeah, is that better?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
I'll have to switch glasses then. There we go. Um,
Yeah,
these yogis who see the Brahmanan, in addition to,
the Sadguru.
yeah, the Sadguru sees three different things. As it pleases his fancy with his external eyes, he can see the universe and the world and his inner eye. He sees God, and with his external eyes, he actually sees all that exists coming out of himself in the form of innumerable circles. Through the point of his inner third eye, those yogis who see the Brahmanan can be counted by the thousands, while perfect masters are always very, very few.
We have a asterisk later. Meher Baba clarified that there exists on earth at all times 56 God-realized perfect persons, Shivatmas, 5 of whom are perfect masters called Sadgurus in Vedanta and Kutubs in Sufism.
After these explanations, Baba reclined in the dining hall, seemingly asleep, while Ghani massaged his legs. When the master awakened at 5:45 p.m. after sleeping so long, he remarked that he thought it was morning, asking Gustaji, "Are tea and breakfast ready?" I do that a lot after my nap too. "Are tea and breakfast ready?" When he was told it was evening and time for supper, Baba remarked, "I have never slept like this before. I must have brought it, the restful sleep, from Sakori." The next evening after dinner, Baba called the Mandali to the hall and said, "From the 1st of November, I am beginning my inner work very seriously, and those who want to continue to stay with me should sign an official agreement on stamp paper."
Footnote, stamp paper is a government-issued form of different denominations on which various legal transactions are recorded.
Like a notary or something, yes. On stamp paper, but they should think it over carefully before signing it, for after putting their signatures, they should be ready to hold fast to my feet, even if any calamity befalls their families. The 1st of November, my favorite date when the East West Gathering happened. Big things happen on the 1st of November. Manjali meme. In case someone in your family dies, or is seriously injured, or is overtaken by misfortune, you will have to remain with me throughout. The master asked Ghani to read out the agreement. Mandalay Meme, 18th October 1922. We, the undersigned, in full possession of our senses and of our own free will and accord, hereby agree not to leave Meher Baba under any circumstances from 1st November 1922 to 25th April 1923. We also agree to stay on with him unmindful of any family events, even if families face some misfortune like the death of our nearest relative, friend, or parents. After the lapse of the said period, Meher Baba binds himself to fulfill the promises which he has already verbally agreed to before the 10th of June 1923. However, if any of us fail to stay with Meher Baba under any difficult and trying circumstances, then he is not obliged to keep his promise. After the agreement was read and explained, it was passed among the Mandalay for their signatures. Everyone except Asar Sahib signed. Without giving any reason, Asar openly refused to do as he was asked. Baba sternly ordered him to leave the manzil, and Asar replied that he would spend the night outside, but would return in the morning. Baba did not accept this, saying that once he left the manzil without signing the agreement, he left forever and should not come back. Therefore, all the men went down to their rooms for the night, while Baba had a private talk with Asar. In the morning, the Mandalay found that Asar had signed the agreement at 11 o'clock the previous night and had then left. Above his signature, he had made this qualifying remark: "I shall follow as far as I can." This made his return permissible if he so desired. The Mandalay left Bombay on the night of 19 October for Sakori, and every man went except Kak Sahib and Ghani, who stayed behind with Baba. They arrived in Sakori the next morning, and Upasni Maharaj sat with them for a long time, telling them many stories and issuing certain instructions. The main point of his advice was that under any circumstances, through thick and thin, the Mandalay should hold firmly to Baba. Listen to what Meherwan says and obey his orders. By doing so, you will be troubled to some extent, but you should try to bear it cheerfully.
Okay, Rainey, thank you.
Thank you.
Rosalie, I think you're up now.
Okay. Where am I at?
If, however, at the
If,
top.
however, the suffering does go beyond endurance, you should humbly tell Meherwan about it, and he will lessen it. The circumstances may be comfortable or otherwise, but you should hold fast to Meherwan and on no account leave him. Day by day, God is manifesting more and more through Meherwan. Great times are ahead for him in every circumstance, and by every means hold to him at all costs. Maharaj emphatically impressed on the Mandalay to adhere to Baba's orders and always be attentive to his pleasures and work. After Maharaj's directives, Durgabai served a delicious meal. They spent 2 pleasant days in Sakori in the intimate company of Baba's master. According to Baba's instruction, on 23rd October, the Mandalay left Sakori and proceeded to Pune to meet Babajan. After taking Babajan's darshan and answering her inquiries about her son, they left for Bombay, arriving at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. They told Baba about their stay in Sakori and about Babajan, and he was pleased. The next Sunday, 29 October, Baba decided to give alms to the poor. He instructed the Mandali not to eat until the poor program was completed, and sent Ramju and Ghani to the bazaar to buy 100 cotton shirts to be distributed among the poor. Baba told the other men to find and bring lepers, the blind and the destitute, to the manzil. Ordinarily, 1,000 beggars could easily have been found in Bombay with the hope of free food and clothing. But it was not an easy task to locate 100 of the genuinely needy, helpless, and poor. Rustam brought a man with no legs in a small cart, which Rustam, wearing a coat, slacks, and a hat, pulled the whole way to the manzil. People on the street stared at him. A well-dressed man doing a coolie's work? But how could they know that Rustam had no money and the cart had been borrowed? Although Rustam looked like a respectable, wealthy person, the fact was he had not a cent in his pocket, since carrying money was against the master's orders. Ghani hunted for 3 miles throughout Dadar, but could find only one destitute person. Fajifdar went as far as Bendi Bazaar, where he found a few needy persons. But the problem was how to take them back to the manzil, as he, like Rustam, had no money with him. But besides being an expert cricketer, Fajifdar was also an expert in persuasion. He persuaded one of the destitute to loan him the fare to take them in a tramcar, promising the poor man he would repay the money and pay for the return journey. Fajifdar succeeded in bringing many deserving people to the manzil in this manner. Ramju hunted around Baikula Bridge, where he found a group of such beggars. Luckily, he came across a friend who lent him the 1 rupee necessary to bring the lot back to the manzil. Each of the mandali faced difficulties in carrying out the master's instructions. The destitute people were not sure of the mandali's intentions. They wondered how a person who had no money for either a tramcar fare or a taxi could possibly give them free food and clothing. Some were afraid, suspicious of falling into a trap or scheme to lock them in an asylum. But the warm reception they received from Baba upon reaching Manzilimim banished all their doubts. The master bathed many of the more than 200 poor people who were gathered and personally served each of them food. He gave each man or woman clothes and even garlanded 3 of them. Then he lovingly sent them away. Rustam took the legless man back in the cart. There was a great change in him, where the man was now wearing new clothes and a garland around his neck. After all the destitute people had departed, Baba instructed Sarosh to bring 4 buckets of water with ice and to pour 3 bottles of rose syrup into them to prepare sherbet. Sarosh did so. Everything was ready. The mandali waited anxiously to have a nice, cool drink after a long day of fasting. Just then, Masaji made some inappropriate comment, and Baba became very irritated. Sarosh, throw those buckets of rose sherbet in the gutter, he said. All 4 buckets were thrown out, while the Mandali silently cursed Masaji for provoking Baba. Sarosh approached Baba. Please pardon us, we are feeling very thirsty. After some time, Baba calmed down. A new batch of sherbet was prepared and distributed, and the Mandali broke their fast, eating the food that was left over. The tomb of a renowned 12th century Sufi master named Baba Abdur Rahman Malang, or Haji Malang Shah, is situated 30 miles northeast of Bombay near Kalyan. The shrine is famous for being a place of pilgrimage for both Hindus and Muslims. One of the few dargahs, tombs, where religious rites of different religions were performed. Baba planned a trip to visit it. With several of the Mandali, Baba left Bombay by train early in the morning on 30th October. Upon reaching Kalyan, they hired 2 cars to drive to the tomb, located on the forested hill known as Malangad. They proceeded toward the hill, but because of the recent rain, the dirt road was quite muddy. They could only drive 6 miles, so they covered the remaining distance on foot. But despite walking for 3 miles through the hilly tracks, they could not find the shrine. Apparently, they had walked in the wrong direction.
Okay, thanks, Rosalie. Honey Bunny, are you ready to read again? Or Michal?
I'm ready. But why don't you read? Why don't you read, Marvin?
All right, I'll pick it up here. Baba selected a spot under a tree to rest and told the men, lay the flower jolly, the sheet we have brought here, in the name of Malang Shah, and bow down as if you are present before his tomb. All did accordingly, and Baba vowed that they would surely visit Malang Shah's tomb sometime in the future. Before God, in the name of Allah, he then forgave himself and the others for their inability to ascend the mountain, and he told the Mandali not to think about it any further. On their return, they again lost their way and went a mile ahead of where the cars were parked. But this mistake was lucky, as they met their driver on the road on his way to the village, thinking the group would not come back until evening. Reaching Manzali Mim at 5:30 in the evening, Baba remarked, today's pilgrimage could not be said to be incomplete, as on the notice board it was written, go to Kalyan, instead of to go to the tomb of Malang Shah. Next time we will take care to write Malangar, Malang Hill. The men understood what he meant. Because of this oversight, they had not been able to reach Malang Shah's tomb and realized that for some other reason, it was the master's wish that they had missed the way. During this period, a flour mill on Elphinstone Road, near the railway bridge, was purchased by Baramji, Rustam, and Asma to provide employment to those men at the Manzil who needed jobs. Footnote here, Elphinstone Road is now called Jagannath Bhatnagar Marg. The mill, however, was located in an undesirable area at Parel, a thickly populated place with stinking sewerage flowing in gutters nearby. The building was dreary inside and in a dilapidated condition. To operate the mill there were 3 engines and about 6 grinding machines. Despite the unwholesome atmosphere, Ferdun, also later known as Padre, Abdur Rahman, Ramju, and Slamson began working there each day as ordered by the master. Ferdun was the mechanic, Ramju and Abdur Rahman the cashiers, and Slamson the manager. The mill machines would frequently break down at the end of the month, The cash returns showed more of a loss than a profit. Ghani, in his own sarcastic manner, referred to the mill as, quote, the White Elephant Mill on Elphinstone Road. Soon after the mill was closed down. By Baba's orders during October 1922, final preparations for publishing Upasdi Maharaj's biography in Urdu were intensified. By November, advertisement posters and leaflets were printed, and a publishing company named Circle and Company was formed under Rustam's legal aegis. Baba gave specific instructions to the men at the Manzil about the distribution of leaflets and the hanging of posters at different fixed locations throughout the city. On the 3rd of November, Baba told Ghani to put up some posters printed with Upasdi Maharaj's picture, advertising the book in the Mohammedan locality of Juma Masjid, and to distribute the handbills to Muslims there. Reluctantly, Ghani proceeded to do the popular mosque, accompanied by Aspandiar, Hindu, a Zoroastrian, and Arjun, a Hindu. Ghani had frequented this mosque in the past. When his fellow Muslims found him plastering the posters of a Hindu guru on the walls of the mosque, they teased and ridiculed him. Baba then sent Ramju to another mosque named Jakaria Masjid in the Kachi Mohalla neighborhood for the same purpose, advertising Upasdi Maharaj's forthcoming biography. Ramju, who is also a Muslim, was well known in the area and begged Baba to send someone else. Baba allowed him to be excused and ordered another Muslim, Abdur Rahman, to go to that mosque. He sent Ramju to Pul Gali, also known as Flower Lane, to advertise the soon-to-be published book. Ramju plastered the posters on the doors and walls of a mosque there, and after the Muslims finished their prayers, he stood at the entranceway handing out leaflets about the book. Ramju did not escape rebukes, however, for he too was scoffed at and insulted by the Muslims there. 1,000 copies of Gariban Ka Asara arrived from the printer on 15th November, and selling the books became a regular activity at Manzil Amim. Rustam and Bajistar were the two men wholly occupied in this work and were ordered by Baba to sell as many copies as possible. The other men in the Manzil were told to help during their leisure time in every available spare hour, as Baba put it. Urdu is derived from Persian and is commonly spoken among Muslims in India. However, every man in the Manzil had instructions to sell a certain number of copies of Maharaj's Urdu biography among their friends and relatives, whether they were Muslim, Hindu, or Zoroastrian. Ramju had a particularly difficult time disposing of his copies, so he contacted a rich relative in the hope that he would buy several copies. But the relative only asked, "How long have you been so down and out that you have had to resort to this sort of peddling?" Ramju, who had been a successful cloth merchant, was embarrassed and bid a speedy farewell after managing to sell him 2 copies. Ramju once tried selling Upasdi Maharaj's biography at the wedding of another relative and even delivered a speech to the gathering about the book's deep significance. The Muslims jeered and booed, shouting, "You are speaking to Muslims about a Hindu guru. Are you crazy? Do you think we would buy such trash?" Another time, Ramju saw his cousin and tried to explain to him about the spiritual importance of the book, but had little success. Ramju told him that the instruction was written by the revered Sufi scholar, Khwaja Hassan Nazami. Hearing this, the relative sneered, "Who? Khwaja Nazami? Is he a first-rate? He is a first-rate crook. I definitely would not buy anything Nizami endorses." Ramju was taken aback and left. On one occasion, Rustam and Bajiftar approached a lawyer, handing him a copy of Gariban Ka Asara. After casually glancing through the book, the lawyer asked, "What do you want me to do?" Rustam jokingly said, "Why don't you buy 100 copies? You can afford it." The man immediately pulled out rupees 300 from his pocket and handed it to Rustam. Later, they learned the man was genuinely interested in spirituality. For many days, Rustam and Vajifdar walked all over Bombay trying to sell the books. During the course of their daily solicitation, it was recommended that they visit a wealthy merchant who owned a lot of property and managed a successful business. When they went to meet the man at his office, they found him sitting in a small room on the bare floor, dressed like a common clerk. They were shocked by the man's humble attire, but he welcomed them lovingly and bought several copies of the book. Vajifdar, a famed cricketer who would go to the cricket matches where he was well known and try to sell the book to the spectators watching the game. Many of his acquaintances felt sorry to see this famous athlete reduced to hawking books. Out of pity for him, they would purchase the books. Vajifdar even sold books during intervals at matches where he himself was playing as one of the captains. Once Ramju approached a Secret Service official who was a friend of his family to sell him a book. At first, the man appeared to be genuinely interested in spiritual matters, but in the course of the conversation, the government agent admitted that he was simply doing his job and trying to secure information about what went on inside the manzil. Okay, would somebody else like to read a couple pages before we stop here?
Okay, I'll read. But is Elizabeth on because she might want to read? She was on before.
I can read if we need a reader as well. So,
Yeah, do read, do read.
All right,
okay.
pick it up from the top.
Okay. He candidly told the startled Ramju that the premises had been watched for weeks by government agents, that some of the men had been followed, and that all telegrams and letters had been scrutinized. The agent further explained that the manzil was suspected of harboring a secret society with either political or criminal motives. The agent described what the police had come to suspect, and Ramju clarified certain matters, explaining about Meher Baba and the different men living with the spiritual master. In the end, to Ramju's surprise, the agent then purchased 5 copies of the biography. By these activities, Baba made the men of Manzil-e-Mim undergo various experiences, showing them how to remain humble and to persevere in the face of indifference, ridicule, insults, and humiliation. Despite the trying circumstances surrounding the sale of the biography, many people in Bombay came to know of Meher Baba and Upasi Maharaj through this book. Nonetheless, age found the situation most peculiar. Here were men of different communities hawking the Urdu life story of a Brahmin perfect master who had a Mohammedan guru, Sai Baba, and whose chief disciple was a Zoroastrian Irani. Moreover, the salesmen, while professing to be leading a spiritual life of renunciation, were apparently eager to sell as many copies of the book as possible and collect as much money as they could. Before Baba had left the Pune hut for Bombay, he had sent Vishnu to Ahmednagar to work for Adi's father. But after 6 or 7 months, in November 1922, Vishnu was called to Bombay and began residing at Manzil-e-Mim. On Sunday, 19th November 1922, a Muslim named Nasir Ahmed from Bawandi came to meet Baba. When he asked how he had come to know about the master, Nasir narrated this recent incident. One day, when I returned home, my servant informed me that an unexpected guest was waiting to meet me. The guest turned out to be a venerable old man who said his name was Abdul Wahid. During our conversation, he casually hinted that I should go meet Meher Baba. I informed him that although I had heard of the Irani master, I hesitated to go for his darshan since he was not a Muslim master. Abdul Wahid then explained to me, masters have no religion. Meher Baba is the first of our time. He has been appointed the special duty of creating as many walis, saints, as possible. At present, his state is such that he can transform anyone whom he embraces into a saint. Go meet Meher Baba and give him my salams. Baba's response was a smile, and he remarked that Abdul Walid was spiritually advanced and that Nasir was fortunate to have heeded his advice. Nasir's brother, Aziz Ahmed, arrived in the evening with a similar tale. Papa Maya Chaudhry was another Muslim visitor. He came to the manzil on the first of every month to collect a 100 rupee donation from Baba toward the running of his educational institution in Pune for poor Muslims. Tension had been building among the men because for several days, the master had written on the notice board, "Someone has committed a bad deed in the manzil." Merwan. At first, the manzili took it as a general warning to all. However, on the 4th of December, they found an additional notice which disturbed them more. "Unless the culprit confesses his fault to me within 3 days, I will leave the manzil." Merwan. The manzili had misgivings and started questioning and accusing one another. Each in his own way tried to discover the transgressor, but failed. After 2 days, another notice appeared on the board. "Only 1 day remains for the culprit to admit his guilt. Otherwise, I will go away from the manzil." Merwan. 6 December 1922. Everyone was distraught and dreading the consequences. Nervously, they discussed the matter among themselves throughout the day. Evening was approaching and the tension was unbearable. Would the master carry out his threat? Who was the scoundrel who refused to come forward and admit his wrongdoing? Would all the men be punished for his mistake? As gloom hung over the manzil, when the stipulated period was about to expire, Baba suddenly came storming down from his room. All wondered if he was leaving. Like a lion, Baba pounced on one of the servants named Mahbub, who had washed their dishes among other chores. Catching hold of him, Baba accused him. "Didn't you commit an impure act?" Mahbub was shaking with fright, but lied that he had not. "No?" Baba asked scornfully. "Aren't you ashamed to lie to me?" And Baba's describing the place and circumstances in which the act was done, naming the woman involved. Mahbub admitted his guilt. Baba spoke as if he had witnessed everything. Mahbub openly confessed that while the master and the manzili were away in Kilian, he had had sexual intercourse with a low-caste sweeper woman employed to clean the toilets. Although Baba forgave Mahbub, he did not allow him to reside in the manzil any longer. He was sent to Munshiji's home, and Munshiji was instructed to find Mahbub a job in Bombay. Naval had been very ill for several days, and Baba would often visit him at his house to see how he was feeling. During his illness, Naval had a vivid dream in which Sai Baba appeared and told him clearly, "Whatever difficulties you are suffering from, it is given to you intentionally by Meher Baba."
Okay, and we are going to stop here. And we'll stop recording.